Hey everyone! Welcome back to the ever-branching streams of Hypertime. I'm Ryan Howitzer and I'll be your guide. Now over the years, many actors have been considered for lead roles in superhero movies. Some of them would have been really good, some of them would have really sucked, and I've compiled a list of 10 who I thought were really interesting. Not necessarily good or bad, but interesting. Now fair warning, some of them suck. Oh my goodness, some of them suck. Anyway, these are the top 10 actors who almost played superheroes.
Number 10.
As some of you may know, Adrianne Palicks was cast as Wonder Woman for a TV show that would have aired on NBC. They even filmed a pilot. It sucks.
One look at Adrianne Palicks will probably convince you that she'd be a perfect Wonder Woman. And you'd be right. As long as the script she's handed isn't complete and total dribble and the directing not much better. Yeah, in this take on Wonder Woman, she's pretty much psychotic. Throughout the pilot, her main weapons are murder and intimidation. She even kills a guy to prevent him from using the court system the way it was intended to be used. Yeah, all in all, I recommend you stay far, far away from that Wonder Woman pilot. There's a reason that NBC didn't pick it up, and keep in mind, NBC once aired the show The Cape.
Now, Adrianne Palicks is a great actress. She's currently killing it right now in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as Mockingbird. With the right script and the right direction, she would have been a great Wonder Woman. However, she didn't have the right script or the right direction. She had the exact wrong script and wrong direction.
Number 9.
Jim Caviezel was originally cast in the Bryan Singer X-Men movie as Cyclops. He had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts, though.
Yeah, before James Marsden was cast as Cyclops, Jim Caviezel was in the role. However, he had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts, which is pretty much the blanket term for didn't like the script in Hollywood, but Caviezel actually did have legitimate scheduling conflicts. He was shooting the movie Frequency at the time. It's hard to say what Caviezel would have brought to the role, mostly because I'm not very familiar with his work. Caviezel was also up for the role of Superman in 2006's Superman Returns. However, director Bryan Singer decided not to cast him, and, get this, he did it because Caviezel had at one time played Jesus in the movie Passion of the Christ, and he felt like having Jesus play Superman would be too distracting. Considering all the very heavy Jesus symbolism in Superman Returns, I'm not at all surprised by this.
I think Jim Caviezel would have been fine as Cyclops. I mean, it couldn't have been worse than James Marsden. As Superman, though, I'm not really sure. I don't know, he just doesn't strike me as a Man of Steel type.
Number 8.
In the early 90s, Marvel announced a She-Hulk film, and they cast Brigitte Nielson in the role. Now, obviously, the movie was never made. I'll probably end up talking about it on Hypertime. Now, how would Brigitte Nielson have done as She-Hulk? Well, it's difficult to say.
Usually when models try to make the transition to acting, the results are not spectacular. Kate. Brooklyn. However, Brigitte Nielson was in a few things. She was one of the few redeeming factors of the Red Sonja movie. She did fairly well in Rocky IV, and she was in Cobra. Can't remember a whole lot about Cobra, but she was in it. She certainly had the look for She-Hulk, as you can see in the one publicity photo they managed to take before they canceled the movie. However, this was Marvel in the early 90s. If you've even heard of Roger Corman's Fantastic Four, you pretty much know how this would have turned out.
She didn't really impress me as Ivan Drago's wife, so she probably wouldn't have impressed me in this movie. And the quality of Marvel's movies in the early 90s was questionable at best. So she probably wouldn't have done as great a job.
Number 7.
Before Justin Hartley showed up on Smallville to ruin Green Arrow, he was cast as Aquaman for a CW series. I believe they even filmed a pilot for it.
Putting aside my hatred for Smallville and everything associated with it, Justin Hartley just doesn't strike me as that great of an actor. I mean, he's on a soap opera now. Draw your own conclusions. And this was the CW before the CW was any good. This would have basically been a teen drama with superpowers. Just like Smallville. And Aquaman is a king. He's supposed to have a regal demeanor. That's not at all what I get from Justin Hartley. What I get from him is douchey frat boy demeanor. I really couldn't see him calling an army of sharks on Ocean Master or Black Manta. The worst he could probably do is snark them to death.
Hartley was an awful Green Arrow. He's not that great of an actor. Heck, he's on a soap opera now. I highly doubt he would have made that good of an Aquaman.
Number 6.
Dougray Scott was originally cast as Wolverine for Bryan Singer's X-Men, but like Caviezel, he had to drop out for scheduling conflicts. This time to make MI2.
No, Hugh Jackman was not the original actor cast as Wolverine. Dougray Scott was. Now, he had to drop out due to conflicts with Mission Impossible 2, and if you've seen Mission Impossible 2, you pretty much know how his Wolverine would have ended up. I mean, the man pretty much hammed it up the entire time in Mission Impossible 2. I could not take him seriously as Wolverine. Oddly enough, I can say with pretty much complete and total 100% certainty that Hugh Jackman owes his entire career to Dougray Scott.
I wonder if Hugh Jackman's ever thanked him or bought him a beer or something. If you've seen Mission Impossible 2, you know this would have been an awful performance. Plus, it gave us the career of Hugh Jackman. I, for one, think it's a good thing that Dougray Scott didn't play Wolverine.
Number 5.
Yes, the rapper Common almost played Green Lantern John Stewart. Here's the funny thing, though. I think he might have actually done a good job with the role.
Common was cast in the George Miller-directed Justice League Mortal. Now, obviously, this movie never saw the light of day, but it did have a complete and total cast, and it's going to make one very interesting episode of Hypertime. Now, remember earlier in the video when I said that models didn't make very good actors? Well, that usually goes doubly so for rappers. However, Common's kind of the exception to the rule. Everything I've seen him in, he's done a decent job in. Maybe he would have been a good Jon Stewart after all. However, nobody could top Idris Elba if he played Jon Stewart. That would be amazing.
We're definitely going to be covering Justice League Mortal on Hypertime, but I think he would have done a great job as Green Lantern. Plus, Jon Stewart's one of my favorite Green Lanterns, so would have been cool to see him on screen.
Number 4.
Yes, Jake Gyllenhaal almost had to replace Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man for Spider-Man 2. Now, why would he have to replace Tobey Maguire? I mean, Tobey Maguire ended up being in the movie. Well, the story is a little bit strange.
Rumor has it that Tobey Maguire was injured on the set of Seabiscuit, and Sam Raimi was unsure whether or not he'd be able to come back for Spider-Man 2. So he turned to Jake Gyllenhaal to play Spider-Man in the sequel. Tobey Maguire eventually healed, and they were able to make Spider-Man 2 with Maguire. Unfortunately, Gyllenhaal never got to be the webhead. Now, this was only a few years after Donnie Darko, during the prime Gyllenhaal time. I think he would have done a great job.
I think Jake Gyllenhaal would have been a good Spider-Man. I mean, he was in a lot of great movies before he basically just became a Brokeback Mountain joke.
Number 3.
No, you are not on any drugs. Tom Cruise almost played Iron Man.
If you're like me, then you can't picture anybody but Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. Now I want you to completely forget about Robert Downey Jr. and try to picture Tom Cruise in the role. Alright, you can stop laughing now. But seriously, ever since the early 90s, Tom Cruise was lobbying really hard to play Tony Stark / Iron Man. He wanted to act in and produce the film, and he stayed on board the project as late as 2004. Eventually, he just kind of lost interest. In a weird way, we have Tom Cruise to thank for both the resurgence of Robert Downey Jr. and the emergence of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I mean, it was him that got the ball rolling on the Iron Man idea.
Tom Cruise is not a bad actor. But let me put it this way. Do you want to see Tom Cruise play Tony Stark? No, I didn't think so.
Number 2.
Do not adjust your screens. Bill Murray was at one time considered for the role of Batman. Sounds like a horrible idea, right? Well, it is. It's an awful idea.
If you remember back to the episode of Hypertime where I reviewed Tim Burton's Batman, then you'll remember that the producers of the movie had the rights to Batman as early as the late 70s. Now, sometime between then and the Tim Burton movie, the Batman movie was in the hands of Ivan Reitman. Yes, that Ivan Reitman, the one who made Ghostbusters. And who was his choice to play Batman? Why, none other than Bill Murray. Yes, Bill Murray would have been Batman. That's going to be one really weird episode of Hypertime. Now, is Bill Murray a good actor in both drama and comedy films? Of course he is. Does that mean he's a good fit for Batman? No. Batman is supposed to be intimidating, and while Michael Keaton doesn't immediately strike you as intimidating, he was able to surprise us. However, I'm yet to see Bill Murray turn in any kind of intimidating performance. I mean, has anyone here ever been intimidated by Bill Murray? If you have, please go see a psychiatrist. There's something wrong with you.
Bill Murray is hilarious, but he's not at all right for Batman. He's not even right for Bruce Wayne. This was a horrible idea. Horrible. I'm so thankful that it didn't happen.
Number 1.
You all knew this was going to be number 1. This is the big, infamous, almost superhero casting.
Anyone who's ever even heard of a comic book movie knows that at one point Nicolas Cage was supposed to play Superman, and most of them know that this would have been an absolutely horrible idea. The rest of them are safely locked away in mental institutions. Now let me break some new ground and say that this would have been absolutely horrible. If you've seen any Nicolas Cage movie, you know that Superman's not exactly in his repertoire. Can you think of a Nicolas Cage movie where he pulls off any of the traits that you normally associate with Superman? No, neither can I. Nicolas Cage doesn't do subtle very well. And can you picture Superman having a Nicolas Cage freakout? Okay, I can, and it's hilarious, but it doesn't make for a very good Superman movie. The Tim Burton Superman movie would have been weird, and this would have been one of the weirdest parts of it.
Nick Cage would not have been good for Superman. I don't think I can emphasize this enough. It would have been hilarious just how bad he was. Unfortunately, today's journey on the ever-branching paths of Hypertime has come to a conclusion. But next time, we'll be looking at X-Men Origins Magneto. I'm Ryan Howitzer, and I'll see you.